What's going on, everybody? My name is Justin Shaifer, also known as Mr. Fascinate. I'm a science communicator, STEM educator, and multimedia producer.
Dr. Dakotah Tyler here at Dr. Star Kid everywhere. I'm an astrophysicist, a science communicator, a planetarium director, and an author soon to be published. Well, not that soon, but eventually.
That's what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
On this episode of Curiosity Theory, we're going to be talking about career transitions, how we've navigated personal decisions in our lives in academia, education, and entrepreneurship, and maybe some mentally flexible philosophies that you can do to navigate these really uncertain and tumultuous times.
Finding the signal in the sea of noise.
Talk soon.
Right now, literally.
To it, man. Welcome back, Curiosity Theory. We're in a interesting space here. This is interesting.
Just like we
career
were
move.
last week.
Yeah, well, or not, depending
Or
on when we
randomly.
release the episode. Could depend on we could be anywhere at any time. Really,
Yeah.
at this point,
Transcending, and we also don't think of time linearly,
right?
like most people.
Yeah, right. Yeah, I for one believe time is a social construct designed to.
Oh, you believe time is a social construct?
No, this isn't that kind of podcast, y'all. I'm just playing.
Yeah. So I guess what we do is we batch shoot the episodes,
Yeah,
and we don't always release them in the order that we shoot them.
yeah. So you all might be seeing one of our first episodes next after something that we filmed a long time ago. And at this point, I feel like we're vets.
Yeah.
Yeah, because we're over. Like, was it the stat? It was like 90% of podcasts don't make it past episode 10.
I think it was even so. I think most of them stop after 3,
Yeah,
and then like a next huge chunk doesn't make it past 10.
yeah. So we've made it through the great filter,
Yeah.
and here we
Appreciate
are.
everybody tuning in too.
Yeah, appreciate y'all tapping in with us. That actually reminds me. I think we have some cool moves.
You're just the
coming up.
king of transitions. You always looking. I can tell when we talk that you don't even paying attention.
I'm
to what
not even
saying.
focused on the present.
You're trying to
No, I'm
figure
trying to
out
figure
how
out
to
what's
do a
next.
transition into the next topic.
I'm figuring out what's coming
Speaking of,
next. Speaking of what's coming next, what's coming next for everybody on the on the podcast?
by the way, check out these. We got these shirts and these hoodies. Get you some merch if you want to
Yeah.
support us. Hop on the Patreon as well.
You can hop on the Patreon and you can check out the link. We're going to have a link for you all down below where you can purchase the merch, Curiosity Theory merch.
Who are you looking at when you're saying that? You're looking at the.
I am.
You're looking
Yeah,
at yourself, you narcissist on TV,
No,
but you're talking to them, but you're not looking at any of the cameras.
This is our
So
first-
when I go through and edit this, you're doing this, but you're speaking to the people.
This is our first time in this studio, and I'm kind of
This
distracted.
is our
by
first
this
time making a podcast. Apparently,
well,
we don't know
it could
what's
be.
going on.
Could be our first episode.
Could be our first episode. We don't know what order we're gonna release them in.
But what we're going to be doing with Curiosity Theory coming up is building out our own studio space that has a custom look and is exactly the way we want it to be. And you might have seen us bounce around different studio spaces, and there's going to be a lot less of that and a lot more consistency in the very near future. So excited to share more about that.
Yeah.
Very soon.
Although personally, I do like the idea of keeping our audience on their toes. Like, where are they going to be next?
Yeah, where are they going to be next, right? Yeah, we're going to be somewhere else next.
We're going to be somewhere else next.
Yeah, somewhere.
Well, next.
It could be previously.
It could be in several weeks.
Yeah.
Depends on when this episode. It could be next week.
At this point, when we started that first episode, the universe branched out into several different possibilities. And at any time, we could be us, I could be you, you could be me, and we could be creating this episode.
Yeah. Crazy.
But anyway, what we are excited to help people out with is their career transitions, right? We are in a tumultuous time in history where a lot of science programs are being defunded. A lot of STEM careers are becoming less, they're shrinking and growing in real time, right? AI is kind of taking over different things, and there might be folks with all kinds of different diverse backgrounds listening in our audience that may feel like some of the recent policy changes have affected their job prospects. And we kind of want to have a practical conversation, both from our perspective, like, hey, how are we navigating this, right? Myself being an entrepreneur, you being an academic and astrophysicist, but also how can they navigate this with whatever their dreams may be.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
And times are changing fast, and you gotta, like, I think one of the directions that things are going in is being able to be like your own sort of independent contractor, being able to maybe work quickly on certain projects, having that skill and not necessarily needing to lock in some long-term employment, because it seems like those opportunities, like you said, are shrinking, and with the high turnover, especially in the tech space,
Right.
and the uncertainty around like, is AI going to be able to take a lot of jobs? Is it not? Seems like some companies are scaling back. Seems like there's also a realization that maybe it's not as efficient or as effective or as quick as some people thought that it was going to be.
Right.
So yeah, I mean, it behooves you, I think, to be like nimble and to be able to do your own thing and not be afraid to like branch out. Think about
Right. We've discussed before a little bit the notion of these frontier firms, right? These like smaller organizations that is kind of like the company of the future, where there's a small group of, let's say, 10 to 20 super AI literate individuals in niche skills that maybe don't require a whole department. Like maybe you have one employee that is the marketing force behind the organization, and they are using a bunch of AI marketing tools and managing those tools, and they can do what it used to take 10 people to do, right? So if you're in a lot of these different subsects of the company, finding ways to figure out how to do other jobs that are outside of the scope of yours with the power of AI tools, I think is a great start. But like how, I think the how is really important too.
Yeah.
So
Definitely
I think,
agree with you.
yeah, and I think, like I do a lot of workshops actually where I teach people how to onboard themselves in the use of new AI tools. I call it dating AI tools versus marrying them, right? Because the tools are constantly usurping each other, right? And so you kind of want to be like this, this gigolo with your AI tools. Probably not gigolo.
Gigolo?
Yeah, I think gigolo is not the right term.
The thing is, so here's the thing. Side note, you constantly berate me for basically being like 2 years older than you, or 3 maybe, or like 4, I guess.
I think it's like 5 or 6.
It's like 4 or 5 if you're,
technical or accurate.
not on a leap year.
Precise.
But it's like, then you pull out terms like gigolo, and I'm like, when is the last year that anybody has even said that?
Well,
The last time I've heard it
2025.
is maybe in like an Austin Powers movie or something like that.
Perhaps so. But I think,
And so I always wonder, like your soul, was it like swept away from an earlier time?
I think I'm
Like,
an old
what's
soul.
definitely an old soul.
I think so.
But what happened though? Because you're Gen Z technically.
No, definitely not Gen Z. I'm firmly a millennial.
Yeah.
Firmly a millennial. The boundary of Gen Z starts around 96. I'm firmly like older than that.
Yeah, so. You're like a new computer running old software.
That's
kind
great.
of.
Yeah, that's great. Yeah.
Yeah.
That doesn't feel good. Man.
And I'm like, what is up with this operating system? Well, why am I having to code in Fortran to talk to this man?
Well, I think, okay, so what I was saying is maybe gigolo is not the operative term. Perhaps we'll say
the operative term.
Perhaps we'll say, someone that's non-committal, right? Someone who has a phobia of commitment. With AI tools specifically, because if you marry an AI tool too soon, you may lose the opportunity to date other new AI tools that cost the same amount of money that are actually a better bang for your buck.
Yeah, right, because the turnover is so high.
The turnover of these tools is so high, and they're constantly usurping each other.
Right, and you get used to like one, and then you get comfortable with it, and then maybe you like opportunity cost. You're not using some other tool that you should be checking out.
And then I think a lot of people are really comfortable with the general tools like ChatGPT, but then there's like these niche tools, like if you're into video editing or video production, like VO3, or in game development, like Genie 3, which is another Google tool. These are the type of tools that you want to learn what tools exist in your niche and become literate in the usage of those.
Right, and so this is like, to me, I guess this is what's coming to mind is the difference between like people who use LLMs generally and like what we would call a power user.
Yeah.
The people who like know the specific, AI relevant to the thing that they're trying to do, that some like prompting ChatGPT just simply wouldn't be sufficient.
Right. And yeah, a lot of times, like, there's this workflow where you're using different AI tools to achieve a specific task. So one of the things actually really relevant, so I'm actually working with LinkedIn right now to like make these AI videos for them. And every week I'm showing like how to use a different set of AI tools to achieve.
Yeah, you popped up on my FYP.
Yeah, on LinkedIn.
Yeah, I guess one night I just hated myself, so I was scrolling the LinkedIn. I was scrolling the LinkedIn feed.
And then I popped up. And you probably were happier after that.
Yeah, it was cool. I liked it.
Yeah, that's great. That's great. Yeah. So one of the videos that I actually did, and we actually talked about this offline, is how to create like a 3D mock-up of a studio space or an office space or anything like that with an AI tool. And so
should we drop that? I think it looks good. Or
Yeah,
should it be a surprise?
I think we can actually share that, and then maybe we'll show what it actually turns into. Maybe all in the same token.
Yeah.
But from a process standpoint, I think it's really interesting to break down, because what I did was I visited the space that we're potentially building the studio in. I took a picture of the empty space, and I had a kind of a hazy vision of how I would like all the things to fit in for our studio, and I prompted ChatGPT to try to fit it in.
Yeah.
And it did a pretty good job keeping the space consistent and then filling it in with cameras, microphones, an aesthetically pleasing backdrop, and everything just kind of being coordinated.
Yeah, I thought it looked good.
Yeah, and I think
it looked real
like that's not in my wheelhouse usually, to like be an interior decorator and designer, but I'm now empowered by these tools to kind of get a drop on these kind of things and move more efficiently and doing the work that I want to do.
Yeah, definitely. And this is this is like topical. This is very relevant. I feel the same way with just prompting the LLMs to build out new skill sets. Like we edit all of our own videos.
Yeah.
And I'm not a video editor. I know how to do it to some extent because I've been doing content creation
I
for
think
a
you've
while.
gotten pretty good though. You're kind of a ninja at this point.
Yeah, and I feel good like using Resolve, and it's like that's how I always think of using LLMs. For me, it's not like a cognitive offload in that I'm not using my brain. It's that they're like these new skills that I want to figure out, and it's like, oh, I can do this, or oh, there's this shortcut on the keyboard that I can use. You were showing me some shortcuts on the keyboard.
The cut tool to trim the video
without having to click.
The
right?
whole time you're manually clicking on the clips and
yeah.
cutting
So
them.
you halved
That's pretty geriatric. It's pretty geriatric.
You have
man.
the edit time, but I genuinely don't feel like there's a thing that I couldn't figure out how to do.
Yeah,
which feels like a superpower.
And that's a mindset shift, I think, from the traditional working mentality, right? It's like you might say, I have this field of expertise, and in this expertise, there's no one at my company that knows more than me about this one thing.
Yeah.
But I think the mindset shift has to go away from that as much as like it's helpful to have a specialty, right? And have a specialized set of knowledge.
Yeah.
But you still want to feel like empowered to learn anything.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I mean, I guess this current era kind of favors, selects for maybe people that have a growth mindset that naturally foster that within themselves and have that that perspective looking at failure or challenges or hangups. It's like, well, how can I do this? How can we do this? How can I do this faster? How can I not spend any money to do this thing? Like, what's a workaround? And yeah, I mean, that does feel very natural to how we move. I mean, we worked on, it's not the first thing that we've done together.
Yeah.
We shot that.
A second home.
That's a second home. Yeah.
Yeah.
And it was the same sort of thing where like, I didn't really know how to use Unreal Engine. We kind of just like learned all of these skills
on the job. And I think that's how you're going to learn in the future. Like one of the things that I get brought in to train people on the usage of different AI tools. I have no AI certifications, right? But I have a body of work that suggests that I have applied knowledge in these fields.
Yeah.
And that's how we got it, right? Like we would throw ourselves in with these ambitious and really challenging projects like a second home where we had to learn on the job, right? And And the output of that, wasn't like this huge TV show that we ended up like coming away with, but it was a unique set of skills and tools that we now can use, right? I saw you use Space Engine for a lot of your content after that, right? And
Yeah.
we started that, with that project. Unreal Engine I later used for many other projects because I learned I got good at Unreal from that one project that we worked on.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, it really does feel like a time where all skills are attainable. And that, yeah, I mean, that really feels like a superpower.
It reminds me of how we actually attain those skills because we use a lot of AI, or at least I remember I used a lot of AI learning Unreal Engine, which for those of us that don't know, Unreal Engine is like a video game development software where you can literally build 3D worlds, right? And you have like a lot of control over it, but it's a really complicated user interface.
Yeah.
But what we were doing, I don't know if you remember this, we were using ChatGPT. Anytime I would get stuck or didn't know where something was, I would just use ChatGPT and be like, maybe show a screenshot or just say like, I'm stuck at this specific thing. How do I do this in Unreal Engine 5.2? And then I might upload a manual and then it would like spit out like, this is how you do it. Sometimes there would be like a little room for error there. And so I'd have to cross-reference that with like YouTube videos, right? But I was able to learn Unreal Engine from like top to bottom in 6 months because I needed to learn how to do it to make the stuff I wanted to make.
Yeah, I mean, that's dope. It's just, I mean, I think more people just need to take on that sort of attitude. That's what's going to make you versatile and like help you kind of survive and thrive in this dynamic and like ever-changing environment.
Yeah. Do you feel like you have skills that, as an astrophysicist that you might have like picked up in completely different career fields?
Like prior?
Yeah, like things that are like really helpful that you have skills in now that you didn't get from your program.
Yeah, I mean, I think that I don't know if I would consider this a skill, but like not being afraid, understanding that if you just work hard and do something repetitively, you'll figure it out eventually.
I feel like you got that from football.
Yeah, I think it's honestly, I may have always had that because there wasn't ever a time like in football where I used to like give up. I always liked training hard. I think it just became clear to me that like I knew that I worked harder than like when I was in high school, for example, the other people on my team, and I was like stronger than them and faster than them. And I knew it wasn't like I'm sure I have good genes, good genetics, but it was more so that I really worked hard. Like if you ask people that knew me in high school, so we had this class called APC, Advanced Physical Conditioning, and all the athletes were supposed to take it. And it was like once a day. And I took that class twice a day. Yeah. So I would work out in I would do it again. And then, especially in the off season, I will also come back and train with my dog, Coach Sutton, the weightlifting coach. And I would do an extra training session like after school. And I just always have like had this really powerful work ethic and
nobody
and
taught you that. That's interesting.
Yeah, and nobody. But I realized that like that has been. I think we've talked about this before when we talk about brute forcing astrophysics. It was just that I always felt like that was a thing a switch that I had that I could turn on. And so when it came to studying math, learning calculus, trying to figure out how to do integration, like whatever the case is, I just knew that, I can sit down and just not get up until I get this assignment done, or, maybe you need to take the day off, but to like come back tomorrow. And so I've probably through positive reinforcement have just figured out that actually works with everything. And so if you have this mindset that you can learn things, that you can figure out how to do things. I mean, I've always wanted to be an author of a book and like publish a book. I mean, I love to talk. Clearly, I have like thousands of hours of me talking on the internet, making content.
Yeah. I also wonder where that came from too, though. Yeah,
loving to talk.
I mean,
I do have ADHD. I'm a little neurodivergent.
Does that directly correlate with a love to talk for people, though?
I don't know.
Not usually, right?
I don't know.
Huh.
I don't know. I just have a lot of thoughts. I don't know.
But like, I think the idea of you then kind of taking that love and then transmuting it into like, okay, I'm an astrophysicist, and I'm gonna still like use this in my career? Like it feels like something that maybe you honed
Oh,
somewhere else.
the work thing or the talking thing?
The talking thing I feel like was honed somewhere else, and then you got into astrophysics and like, oh, I still love talking. Now this is what I want to talk about.
I don't know. I don't recall. I've gotten much more social as I've gotten older. I think I was much more, I don't want to say antisocial, because antisocial is like you're a danger
Right.
in society.
Right.
But
Introverted.
yeah, I was just much
Yeah.
more introverted.
Same. Yeah.
And over time, I have realized, well, I've just gotten more. So I feel like that's also a skill.
Skill. You develop the skills of performative extroversion,
Right.
where it's kind of like you're able to, and I feel like the same way actually. I think I'm an introvert by nature.
Yeah.
Yeah. But you were talking about your book, book
Yeah. So
idea? Hey everybody, thank you so much for joining Curiosity Theory. If you want to support us, check out our Patreon.
You will find behind the scenes footage, never before seen bonus content, and never to be seen again, but enticing and provocative nonetheless. Do a Q&A with Justin and myself, and maybe even weigh in on future episode topics for Curiosity Theory.
You know, one of the tiers I think they should check out is the Galaxy Brain tier, which basically means you're a super smart person if you decide to support us.
It's the only tier. Justin came up with it. He's very proud of the name. Check us out. Curiosity Theory. Have been working. Oh yeah. So that's what it was. I have always wanted to write a book. I think that, and I could be wrong about this, but I think that a lot of the people who follow me who are into science communication, I think that they appreciate the way that I see myself is that I talk about things in a little bit of a different way than many science communicators. And I have like a kind of perhaps at times a unique perspective on something. And I frame things in a way that I think is interesting and that, I feel like maybe are like left out. It does feel like a lot of science communication is kind of basically doing what ChatGPT would do if you fed it a paper and said like, summarize this for me in 30 seconds. And there's a lot of utility for something like that, right? If you want to synthesize, like LLMs are great at that. But I always try to like look at a different angle. Like I made like a 10-minute, I've been making these 10-minute videos recently on TikTok. Just digging into something like, what does it mean for a planet to be habitable? And like, what are the actual equations that we use to predict that? And can we even trust those? And are they even telling us what we think that they're telling us? And to me, that's interesting. It's like curiosity theory, right? Like, what are the assumptions that you have? Because if you're never asking about your assumptions, how do you know you're not like building your entire understanding on things on a house of cards that somebody else gave you, right? And so sometimes it's fun to and you investigate it and you're like, whoa, this actually doesn't mean what it seems like it means. Kind of means something else. So, anyways, I was working on a book for the last like couple years of my maybe like year and a half, kind of off and on. Grad school takes up a lot of time, so it wasn't totally consistent. But I put a lot of time into this, and recently have been shopping it around with my literary agent, and got the first offer literally yesterday, which means that it's getting published. There's somebody who's excited to publish it, and I'm looking forward to it so much, and it's going to be talked about on this podcast a lot moving forward.
Yeah, no, I'm excited. We've talked offline about it before, and I do think, dude, I mean, from a personal perspective, I think your voice is so needed, man, because even like I can think of my own journey with video creation, and I feel like I've been anti-TikTok for a long time, both as a consumer and a producer. Yeah. Because I'm just like, this doesn't even feel like a format for me. But seeing the way that you've approached it has actually inspired me a lot to be like, okay, I could like see myself doing it the way that you do it. I'm just not really trying to be on there doing a bunch of viral dances and like trending
Yeah, man.
songs.
I mean, it's the thing that resonates with people is like who you are as a person. Yeah. People like you. Yeah. You have a lot of friends. I know we have a lot of mutual, like people like you. You're a likable person. You're interesting. You're intelligent. You have an interesting perspective. You're ambitious. And like, that's what, in my opinion, what like resonates most, especially on a platform like TikTok. Yeah. And it doesn't have, I mean, there's definitely a side that's all, that's like dancing and that sort of thing. But there's also there's like a side of everything. Yeah. And I think that your voice is also needed. And there's tons of people who resonate with that, who maybe like also are entrepreneurs or who are thinking about taking that step, which, you kind of did. You were in grad school, and then you were like, nah, this doesn't really feel aligned. A lot of people feel that in grad school and don't pull that trigger, and they kind of stay down that path. That was something that I noticed when I went into grad school, which was very intentional. The day I signed up for community college, I knew I wanted to get my PhD in astrophysics. So I knew I wanted to go to grad school. But what I've realized is that oftentimes people in grad school are sort of following this path of least resistance. They've always been good at school. When you get straight A's in something like physics, what you do is you go to physics grad school, and then you try. And it's not that there's anything wrong with it, but it's not necessarily something that's being fully examined.
Yeah.
And you did that, and you're like, nah, this isn't really like what I want to do. And the thing that you wanted to do, you could do it. You didn't need to go to grad school for that.
Yeah, it was an interesting and weird time because I was at an Ivy League school. I was at Columbia University, a black man at Columbia, making my mama proud, right? And so I'm like telling my mom,
Disowned
like,
you.
yeah, I'm like telling my mom, like, man, I'm just not feeling this Columbia thing. She's like, you're not like everybody, like you're not like these white dropouts of Ivy League schools, like these rules. And my mom means well when she says she's gonna listen to this and give me a hard time, but she meant very well when she said it, And I was just like, yeah, I know I'm not, but I'm also me, right? And I have had a certain confidence, but I want to say that I did not have that confidence in that moment, right? Like remembering that time period, I was in grad school, in an Ivy League school, and I wasn't making money off of my business. Fascinate was a thing already, like it existed. And I was just starting to kind of make waves in the community and build traction.
Yeah.
But I hadn't turned it into a lucrative thing yet, at least at scale. And so I'm like, literally weighing these two options, right? Like, am I an entrepreneur or am I an academic, right? I feel like I was having an identity crisis at the time, right? And I don't think you have to necessarily choose one or the other. Like, I think in your path, I'm seeing that you chose academia, but I think your interests are actually more entrepreneurial, and even your approach to your career is entrepreneurial, right? But at the time, it really felt like I had to choose because it felt like this entrepreneur. Basically, what was happening is I was traveling and speaking so much from my business that I wasn't able to show up to class in person for a lot of these like graduate courses that I was taking.
Early on in an academic career, that's really hard. Like in grad school, also running a full blown business. I started my LLC after I was done with classes and while I was doing the PhD. So yeah, I can see how if you're going around and speaking and doing workshops, then how are you also attending your classes and working on everything?
Right. Yeah. And, I was doing a good job at I think performing academia. I haven't had a tough time with school when I wanted to be in school. And I did actually, it was a science education program that I was in. Yeah. And I wanted to be a part of that. But, I remember I had a sit down conversation with, I think one of my advisors, and they're like, well, what do you see yourself doing in your career? And I was like, well, traveling and speaking, working on these novel creative projects.
Like what you're doing.
Like building this brand. And I was like, wait a minute. That's what I'm doing already. Yeah. I'm doing that now. I'm getting recognized for that now. Yeah. I'm starting to get paid for it now. Like, what if I went all in on my dream? And then I didn't really see academia as a conduit or a catalyst for that dream. In fact, I saw a lot of the programs I was doing were after school STEM programs for kids. And so I would speak to educators about my takeaways from those programs, like the TED Talk I did about Gen Z that ended up going kind of viral. But I realized I was like, okay, I'm a practitioner in these STEM education spaces and making these programs. And if I really want research to be done, I can hire someone that's a specialized education researcher to research the efficacy of the programs that I'm building out, right? I don't have to be the researcher to still have a rigorous research component to the work that I'm doing. And so I was like, with that realization and a few other factors that came in right before COVID, I ended up leaving. 2020 ended up being the most lucrative year I ever had up to that point, and then 2021 continued, and then it just kept growing from there. Yeah, because I finally self-identified as an entrepreneur, and I think kind of closing off academia, at least in that time period, not closing off being a self-directed learner, not closing off having an academic approach to the work that I do in terms of rigor, but closing off this identification of having to go and get that specific credential, I think was a big deal from my career and allowed me to be no, this is who I am.
Yeah. So for anybody that is that's listening that maybe just started a business or is like wants to, and or there's something that they're kind of building on the side and they want to grow it. Um, how do you what specific characteristics in yourself would you identify or do you identify as being ones that kind of make you are like the staples of entrepreneurship?
Yeah, I think that's a great question, man. Like I've been an entrepreneur for 8 years full time, and as a black man, in the STEM space as an entrepreneur, I feel like there's just not a lot of people. I've seen a lot of people come and go,
Mhm.
right? I've seen a lot of hype, and so like the qualities in myself that I think, like there's almost a little bit of a stoicism, like a philosophical, like Marcus Aurelius brand of stoicism,
Mhm.
where it's like I don't get hyped by, like, let's say I have a feature in Forbes come out and like, oh, you're the next Bill Nye, cool, but like what's next, or like I like lose a lot of opportunity. Like during COVID I lost a bunch of signed contracts and speaking engagements just disappeared, and like that doesn't make me now reflect inward and be like, well, am I inadequate? Like I'm like,
Yeah.
no, it's time to lock in,
Mhm.
and so there's this like even keel quality I think of a lot of the entrepreneurs I know. And then there's another thing that I
So
think.
this is like just to kind of highlight what I'm hearing for you, or what you're saying is that you're really able to deal with uncertainty, right? Because
Uncertainty.
uncertainty can go in any, it can go in either direction, right?
Yeah,
It can go up, it can go down, and like not letting that like steer you too much
exactly.
one way or another,
I think I actually have like I have a I'm not uncomfortable in unstable environments, right? And I think maybe
or
like my
like
comfort
chaos.
chaos, yeah. Like I think my level of comfort has increased, or sorry, like decreased in unstable environments as I've gotten a little older. Because I'm like I want more stability as I've gotten older,
Mhm.
but still I think when there's like chaotic environments, that's when I'm able to really focus. And so like when I talk to people that want to be entrepreneurs, I ask them like, how much do you value your own stability, right? And wherever people's answer to that is like, okay, maybe you should actually work for other people at least for
Right.
right now,
Mhm.
and then maybe you can build a business from a more stable background.
Yeah.
I'm the type of person. I quit my job. I moved to New York City. I made $20,000 a year my first year in New York City. Ate one meal a day. Slept on a
And it was top ramen.
yeah, and there was this Indian food spot right next door, and the guy
Yeah.
gave me the hookup every day. I was in
Yeah.
like the part of Harlem it's between Harlem and Washington Heights.
Yeah.
I ate one meal a day, and I would sneak into event spaces. I mean, you go on Eventbrite, find events. I would sneak into the events, and I would just eat the bread in the back and stuff. And I was like 22, so I could put my body through all of these kind of things and not. But I literally didn't have a bed the whole first year, man. Like I
Mm.
was like, I want to sleep on a blow up mattress every day because I don't want to get too comfortable in bed. I need to be
Yeah.
up. I need to be active.
Yeah.
And like I forced like pressure. People say pressure makes diamonds. Like I knew I needed to like I felt like I was in a very lazy headspace, pre entrepreneurship, working my 9 to 5, and I needed to like catalyze myself and
Mhm.
put myself in this really uncomfortable environment. And that's something I learned from years of working on other types of projects.
Yeah.
I was like, that's where I thrive.
Yes. Okay. So this is you just popped this into my head. What I'm hearing here is that you have like very much a willingness to kind of sacrifice, but also to do whatever it takes, and like in the truest sense, in the most literal sense, like whatever
Yeah, it's
it
kind of that
takes.
gets like fun to me in like a kind of maybe sick way. Like almost feels like I'm like like when I started my entrepreneurial journey, it feels like I'm a character in like an RPG, like a role playing game, and it's like,
Yeah.
okay, I have these many health points,
How do
you
we
know.
distribute? Yeah.
And like
Yeah.
when in times of scarcity, I feel like that's
Mhm.
when I get like more
Yeah.
energized.
So I have this. I guess this is not my theory, but it's a way that I like to think about the ability. Like when we talk about being able to learn any skill and figure anything out. When we talk about like being able to do whatever it takes, being able to eat less food or like sleep less or like keep your drive going, but like why can we do that? And you talk about putting yourself in a situation and like feeling something ignite inside you. And to me, this is not, this is very speculative from somebody who's not a geneticist, but to me, I think I have this along with curiosity theory where we inherit these traits from our ancestors. We must have like an insane number of survival genes that can, when flipped on, get us to adapt and survive some of the most incredible things you could imagine, right? Our ancestors, literally what the science tells us is that if we trace me and you, we go back our great grandfather, great great grandfather, if we go back however many, some number with 14 zeros, we get back to a single celled thing called Luca, the last universal common ancestor. And there has been a literal unbroken chain of animals from that single cell to you and I. There's survived multiple mass extinctions, survived asteroids literally hitting the earth, survived super volcanoes erupting, survived droughts, survived famines. And those, those, like, it feels to me like we all have the ability to survive things that are much more intense and difficult and challenging than, I guess maybe I'll say what the average person is faced with today. And, I know you feel like really proud of how far you've come in those. When you look back on those things, you're like, yeah, I did that. Like, that was not easy.
Sometimes not though. Sometimes I'm like unimpressed actually.
With yourself?
Yeah. Which I also think is another quality that makes entrepreneurs great.
Yeah.
They look
right.
back on their past and they're like, well, that was cool, but I could probably do it better in the future.
Yeah. It is always. I also feel like that. It's hard to be impressed. With myself.
Yeah, like I like retold that New York story, and like I don't know. I feel like when I used to tell it, it used to be a lot more intense because I was more proud of it. But now I'm kind of like, that was like a while back.
Well, I mean, if you really want to impress somebody, why don't you do it again? Empty out your bank account, get rid of all your possessions, start from ground zero. Well, do it all over again.
You know what's funny? The digital nomad journey has felt like a pseudo version of that, where it's like, okay, I'm gonna like put all my stuff in storage and like hop around.
Yeah.
And like the backpacking through Thailand I feel like it reignited that like survival mechanism in me that was like, oh, wait a minute. Like
do you feel like you have a strong survival instinct?
I think in an apocalyptic or post-apocalyptic scenario, I would be the leader. I think I would rise to the top.
I also have always felt like I could survive that. Now, here's the thing. I don't know if that's just like man core, where all men are like, oh, yeah, I totally survive.
Totally, 100% of the time.
But it does. I do feel like the feeling that I get when I work out, when I'm like lifting weights, it really feels like overcoming nature.
Yeah,
it's hard to explain.
Resistance.
It's a feeling.
It's a feeling. Yeah,
it's a
feeling.
and yeah, but I feel like I tap into that at times. Like I think I've talked about this before. During my first year in grad school, it was COVID, so everything was online, and we were taking grad classes. And these graduate level classes are a huge step up from the undergrad classes. And the classes were eating up so much of my time. I wasn't having time to do research, which is really important early on because you're trying to establish yourself in a research group. And I really liked my advisor. I really liked the exoplanet research that we did. And I wanted him to want to continue to work with me. And I wanted to continue to like work with that group and collaborate with people and have that network. And I didn't want to fall behind on research. So the night before our weekly research meeting, I would always stay up. So like Thursday nights for my first year in grad school, I just didn't sleep. I would stay up all night and do research. And that gave me like 10 hours of research that I could kind of like catch up on all the research for the week that I wasn't able to do. And I did that for the first year in grad school. So
you stayed up every Thursday. You stayed up.
Didn't sleep for Thursday nights for first year of grad school. I don't know. I also never know like what's enough and what's not enough. Probably, maybe it wouldn't have been a big deal. I never like told anybody. I never told my advisor that. Some of my cohort mates knew that I did that, but it felt like that's what it took. And that project that I was working on was the one with this exoplanet with this huge tail that's 350,000 miles long. It's a tail like a comet. Mm-hmm. That discovery I presented as a breaking discovery at the biggest astronomy conference in the U.S. It made international headlines. I've written articles about it in Scientific American. Like that was a huge thing.
But you wouldn't have been able to make that discovery if you didn't stay up on Thursdays? or do you
Well,
not?
I
You're not
mean,
sure
all of the work that was done on that was done
on that Thursday.
during that period.
Wow.
So, would I have made the discovery? I mean, yeah, if I just, eventually I would have made it.
Right.
The data was in my hand,
Mm-hmm.
but it was really important for me to continue to make progress. And it felt like I also had that mentality, whatever it takes.
Yeah.
And it felt like what it took right then. And, afterward, it was great. And that it brought like great publicity to UCLA, to my research group. It was like a very cool thing. And I'm glad that I did that. Now, as a scientist, I've looked into what not getting enough sleep does, and it's like probably shaved some years off the end of my life. But I don't want to be super old, anyways. I don't want to be too old.
Quality over quantity, huh?
Yeah. And I mean, even then, yeah. And it like I didn't feel great during that time,
Yeah.
so I wouldn't tell anybody else to do that. But for me personally, I really feel it almost feels like what was happening at those times was like a survival thing.
Yeah.
It's like, this is my goal. This is what I want to achieve. I'm going to do whatever it takes. I'm not going to, I guess I could potentially see this happens in grad school where sometimes people who are working with an advisor and the advisor doesn't want to work with them anymore. And sometimes there can be like some weird messed up power dynamic, and that person may have not been a good person.
Mm-hmm.
But sometimes it can just be that they don't want to work with the student because the student is like not working on their level. Like that's also possible. I don't know what the percentage is, but that of course that's happened. There's people that I've worked with before that I don't want to work with anymore, and I didn't want to like not be pulling my weight. And it kind of seemed like all the other grad students were able to do classes and research, and so it kind of felt like, well, okay, maybe this is what I need to do, and like that's fine with me, right?
Yeah.
One way to neutralize, there's this saying that hard work beats talent,
Mm-hmm.
and it's a nice colloquialism, but yeah, you can't, like, to some degree. So I may have to work harder to somebody else who can do something faster, but usually you can try to kind of neutralize that with just that brute force
Yeah.
strategy.
I mean, I definitely think you're a manifestation of that, right? Like in your career and in your life. I think that another interesting practical approach for people is like finding a niche and working harder than everybody else in that niche.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? I think that that's an interesting approach because it's like, okay, I'm going to be like the hardest working software engineer. Well, it's like there's like a lot of other software engineers out there,
Yeah.
right? But if you're like the hardest working software engineer that specifically works on exoplanets, well, dang, your competition pool just got dramatically smaller,
Yeah.
right? And if you want to present yourself as attractive in this kind of workforce that's dynamically shifting, will be the hardest working person in your really specific lane.
Mm-hmm.
And like AI is gonna have a tough time taking that away from you because there's not a robust data set, right?
Yeah.
We see so many software engineers whose jobs are being compromised, right? We were for the past decade. There's been all these. Everybody needs to learn how to code, right? All these different programs that have come out, pumping out software engineers benefiting from them, making six-figure salaries.
Yeah.
And then now there's not any entry-level or very few entry-level software engineering jobs because that's such a broad skill set that a lot of people have.
Yeah.
But if you have a science background in software engineering or a media background and a communication background and an astrophysics background and you work harder than everybody,
Yeah.
well, who else is there? You know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah, man, I totally agree. And it's almost like we throw like hard work around a lot, but I guess like the real result is that you can get things done.
Yeah.
And you can figure it out. And I guess ultimately, like that's what matters, right? If you got the results and figured out some stuff and didn't have to work that hard, I don't think that that's like any more or less impressive than somebody else who got the results and had to work incredibly hard. And I guess in my opinion, and this is from personal experience, if you feel like you're lacking in an area, in a skill set, in your knowledge, in this thing or that thing, the one thing that you can do, like, you can't change your genes, you can't change what education you did or didn't get, you can't change, what schools you went to when you were younger, but you can work, like you can work hard and like have that be a multiplier.
Right. And you can commit a period of time every single day to that task,
Right.
right? Like, okay, we're swamped. We got all this stuff that we have to work on during the day, and we have kids to take care of, or all these different things that are taking up our time.
Mm-hmm.
But it's like, no, I'm gonna make sure that hour that I used to spend watching reality TV or whatever else, I'm gonna carve that hour out, and I'm gonna focus that on the vision, on the long-term goal. I'm gonna delay my gratification a little bit and focusing on the vision. Another quality that comes to mind, you asked me about like qualities that separate, I think, entrepreneurs that
Yeah.
stick around.
Mhm.
I think, if I'm being completely honest, and I think it's a term that is often has a negative connotation, right? But it's ego. I think a little bit of a chip on their shoulder, like something to prove. Like pretty much all the entrepreneurs I know, when they're told that they're just like inadequate or they're just not good at what they're trying to do, or they can't, that they're not gonna make it, they take that as a
Yeah,
personal
man.
challenge.
It's like one of those genes gets flipped on.
Yeah.
Yeah, man. That's so. Yeah.
Yeah, but like almost all the entrepreneurs I know, like they have this ego about them, and a lot of them like maybe they've like gotten more established, and so they're pretty chill. But you'll still find that waking up in other parts of their lives, like maybe they're super competitive in like a random game, or you just
Mhm.
you kind of always see it. Another interesting study, actually, I was reading about this a while back, and I'd love to find it and cite it.
Mhm.
But it was talking about this kind of. And it kind of makes sense when you hear about it, but I want to make sure I'm supporting it with actual research. This Goldilocks zone of like trauma and support in childhood, and how it can like lead to this output of like a more ambitious person. So the idea being like, let's say that you just had a really traumatic or tough childhood and you never felt supported. Well, you might go off on the deep end and experience some of the worst outcomes in society. Or let's say you had like a really supportive childhood and everything went right. Well, you might just become really complacent and never develop what we
Like
might.
the rich kids.
Yeah, the
Trope.
first generation, wealthy kid,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
You might never develop what we colloquially refer to as that dog, right?
Yeah.
But if you're right in the middle, where
The
it's like
Chihuahua is a dog, man.
a Chihuahua's a dog, right? But a Chihuahua's not that dog. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So if you're right in the middle of that Goldilocks zone of trauma, right, where it's like, I dealt with some traumatic stuff, but I knew I had some support. A lot of times that leads to this like positive outcome.
Yeah.
But yeah, I want to find
Interesting.
the research that kind of supports it.
I wonder, just thinking here, why would that be? Why would that be the case? Why would you kind of need both of those? If I was designing humans, I would just, if I could do it right now here at the end where we're at, I would just have them just need some support, and then that would be great for them. But if you try to think about this, and I may be getting like quite speculative here, from an evolutionary sense, all humans were probably faced with trauma throughout their lives at all times. And so it was natural to have traumatic things happen to you, but also to be with your community and be supportive. And that is for you, kind of for like the average human, maybe that's the best environment that we're like, that's the environment that you're designed to thrive in.
Like a little traumatized and a little supportive,
It's
a little bit of
like,
community, a little bit of trauma.
yeah, like my uncle, whatever the Homo sapien, Homo erectus, whatever uncle got eaten by a jaguar right before my eyes. But we're still like, and that was pretty traumatizing. And that's like super traumatizing. But maybe like there was a famine and it was like hard for us to get food or something. But
we
we
were
were all
together.
together. Yeah. And so it's like, that's those ups and downs, that emotional turmoil is maybe like normal in a prehistory wild.
Yeah. And yeah, like our surviving ancestors who had to go through these really rough experiences had these communities, right? These
Yeah.
like relatively tight knit small communities
Yeah.
of survivors, right? That's specialized. And when you think of like the next generation version of that, I think there's like all these online groups on the internet. I think an interesting community that's been forming is our curiosity theory community of the people that in our comments and the people that are liking and engaging with our stuff.
Yeah.
It seems like some interesting trends are emerging, kind of about like qualitatively at least,
Yeah.
about this group of people that is attracted to the type of stuff that we're making. It's
Yeah.
interesting.
Yeah, definitely looking forward to that, growing that community. And if anybody gets attacked by a leopard or something like that, to know that we have this close knit community of curiositeers that we can help everybody thrive together. We can deal with it, one thing at a time.
Yeah, we can survive leopard, lion, tiger attacks together.
Yeah,
Yeah,
like our ancestors.
exactly. But yeah, man. Is there any other advice that you want to give people in these kind of times where people are just everyone's kind of seems like they're not everyone, but a lot of people seem like they're in a state of transition, gray area, trying to make a pivot.
Yeah, man. It's
know?
this is something we haven't talked about in a while, but it's to try and hear your listen to the voice inside of you, especially in this time, not only with all this misinformation, but just simply with all this information and data. And if you're on TikTok, you're getting blasted with a bunch of people's opinions that you don't know, that have had experiences that you don't know about, and they're projecting those things, and then you start to absorb that as reality, and it's not your reality. And to just be able to try to slow down and realize that almost all of the information that enters your brain is noise, and there is some signal in there, which is the thing that is most aligned with you. It's the thing that you really want. It's the thing that deep down if you're on the right path or not, or what the thing is that you really want to do, or if you want to branch off and start new relationships, or whatever the thing is. I do think that signal exists in us all. It just gets drowned out by the increasing amount of noise that we're all immersed in at all times. And that is something I think that's a really critical, especially in a transitionary period and a period with uncertainty. It's more important than ever that you're finding that voice inside yourself and making the right choice for you, which almost certainly isn't going to be the right choice for other people.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I think that is so powerful, man. And I think it's a powerful note to end on.
Yeah.
I think people will
King of transitions. Speaking of powerful, that's a powerful note to end on.
Speaking of powerful, that's a powerful note to end on. Hope you all enjoyed this episode. Thank you all for tuning in. It's Curiosity Theory.
Peace.